Hello everyone, particularly those people who I would normally catch up with at EMPA conferences. I hope you have a fantastic morning. If we could go to the first slide. I'm going to be using a Japanese presentation style. I'll be whizzing quite quickly through the slides. If you want any further information, please call me afterwards on the mobile. Next. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge where I'm speaking to you from. I'm on the land of the Guringai people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to their ancestors, past and present. I also pay my respects to any Indigenous people at this conference. Next. The ABC is strongly committed to emergency broadcasting. We work on this before, during and after emergency events. The way we do this is via our ABC local radio stations. As you can see from the map, we've got 60 locations. That basically covers 99% of Australia, of Australia's population. It's those stations that mainly deal with emergency broadcasting. Next. So how do we do that? Well, the staff in those 60 locations, they are trained in emergency broadcasting. They know to break into any radio program when there's information that the localised audience must hear. They do that regardless of what is already on air in that location. Here's an example of a very simple emergency broadcast. Play the audio.
ABC Radio, bushfire information.
Good afternoon, Jen Ingle here, interrupting your regular program with some important bushfire information. A watch and act has been issued for a fire near View Street and Lysdale. It began near the Castlereagh Highway and is burning in an easterly direction near homes. Fire crews are on the site and battling windy conditions. James Morris is with the Rural Fire Service.
So residents in the area of View Street should be prepared for the impact of fire in the coming hour or so.
How close is this fire to homes at the moment?
Yeah, look, the fire is fairly close to homes. Obviously, firefighters are working in and behind properties to work on extinguishing and containing the fire. It is expected that we will see conditions like what we're seeing currently.
James Morris there with the Rural Fire Service, and the advice from the RFS is for residents in that area to continue to monitor the situation. If you intend to leave, the advice is to leave now and make your way to a safer location. Just a reminder, a watch and act has been issued for a fire near View Street, Lysdale. Began near the Castlereagh Highway and is burning in an easterly direction near homes. Further north in northern New South Wales, a watch and act has been issued for two fires near Tenterfield, a grass fire at Mount Mackenzie Road west of the township, and the other burning in remote terrain southwest of Drake in the Gerard State Forest. A reminder, there is a total fire ban today with strong westerly winds expected to continue this afternoon. We will keep you updated. We'll be back in about half an hour with further updates to those three fires.
So that's an actual emergency broadcast. That warning was broadcast by our colleagues in ABC Tamworth. There are different ways we can do that broadcast. You heard the Rural Fire Service grab being used. Sometimes we incorporate the grabs. Sometimes we conduct interviews. Sometimes we do rolling coverage. With rolling coverage, we basically only talk about that emergency event. Next. And didn't we have a lot of emergency broadcasting? The ABC had 3 times as many emergency broadcast events this year. If we looked at the stats from 2 years ago, look, we handled probably around 250 emergency broadcast events. Last year, 370 or 371. This year, and we're still counting, we're up to 952 emergency broadcast events. That was an incredible season. I know all the emergency agencies realised it. Clearly, they were working on the front line of those massive peak periods, but the ABC absolutely has felt it. The 952 figure doesn't include the emergency broadcasting we've been doing and continue to do for the coronavirus. Next. Now, emergency broadcasting, it's incredibly important work. The ABC, on the back of the bushfire season, commissioned independent research to help us work out what we need to do for the future, to also help us assess what the impact of that work was around the country. The researchers surveyed 1,600 people in various parts of Australia. They also spoke directly to 340 people in bushfire impacted regions. 1 in 2 Australians claim they use the ABC as their main source of information during those fires. 82% of people in those affected areas told the researchers they acted directly on the information they heard from the ABC. Next. Welcome to the team of people I'm incredibly lucky to work with. This is a photo of the ABC emergency team, roughly a dozen people who only deal with emergency broadcasting. They are incredibly amazing people. One thing that you may not realise, each of these individuals receives every warning from around the country. Doesn't matter what state they're based in, their emails are filled with warnings from around the country. Because of that, they're in quite a unique situation. They're able to look at the strengths and weaknesses of the warnings and the emergency communication that every agency issued. Because of that, we wanted to champion some of the success stories, because clearly there is great work in emergency communication. We wanted to look at what works and what helps the media. Next. All right, first of all, accurate forecasting. You know, the BOM, the Bushfire CRC, they have some amazing researchers who can forecast the events for each season. If you look at the map on the left, that's the bushfire outlook. It's the outlook we got in August. If you look at the map on the right, that's a map showing exactly where the ABC delivered emergency broadcasting. Look at it, it's quite a large map because it shows every ABC transmitter that delivered that emergency information. You know, it's quite amazing to reflect on the outlook, to see the outcome of this season and to see the accuracy with which the fire researchers and also the Bureau of Meteorology, particularly the Extreme Weather Desk and the Long Range Climate Forecasters, put in ahead of this season. You know, well done to them. Next. One thing that the ABC has experienced over many, many years is the work of ABC at a very regional and local level, working directly with emergency groups. In Queensland, the local and district disaster management groups, they all have an ABC manager as part of those groups. When the manager is there, it means during the quiet periods, those representatives of those groups, they can build the trust. They can get to know each other so that before the disaster hits, there's already a great relationship. When the disaster happens, such as the Townsville floods last year, the work between that group or those group members is really essential for the local community. It's so important for ABC managers to be included in those regional emergency management committees. Next. The other thing that really works well before the season hits is to train the media. Look, I'll put up my hand, I'll clearly say, journalists are not perfect. The media is not perfect. There are many examples of the media behaving badly on fire grounds or even driving through floodwater, as we heard with Mel's presentation yesterday. In order for the media, I guess, to be safe on fire grounds, but also in cyclones and flood zones, they need some official training. Many of the agencies do provide face-to-face training, but it differs from state to state. As we can see with the COVID situation, the ability to have online training is greater than ever before. Well done to the agencies in Canberra and also in Victoria, who already have online training available for the media. For the other agencies, congratulations to them for the work that they're doing with AFAC to try to develop nationally consistent online media training. Next. I will be mentioning nationally consistent as two words a lot throughout this presentation. They are words that I love hearing about in the emergency sector. The more there is consistency in the message, the easier it is for both the media and also the community to hear that message and to act on it. This year, the ABC in particular has worked closely with the fire agencies to develop nationally consistent CSAs. There is agreement in regards to what the preparation advice is for the community. We developed those CSAs and they've been rolled out right around the country to all of those 60 ABC local radio stations. Here's an example of one of them. Play the audio.
You're listening to ABC Radio. There's a bushfire in your area.
During a bushfire, it's up to you to stay informed. Some fires may start so quickly that they threaten homes and lives within minutes. Don't wait for a warning to enact your bushfire survival plan. Keep an eye on conditions outside. You may become aware of a fire before the emergency services. You can't rely on telephones and the internet for advanced warnings of bushfires on days forecast as catastrophic or extreme fire danger. Your safest option is always to leave early.
You're listening to ABC Radio, and there's a bushfire emergency in your area. We'll bring you the latest information shortly. Follow your bushfire survival plan, and for updates on bushfire conditions in your area, keep listening to ABC Radio, your emergency broadcaster.
So that's one of the CSAs for bushfires. We have also developed CSAs for floods and for cyclones. The flood and cyclone agencies recently with AFAC, they agreed to further develop a nationally consistent approach. Well done to those agencies. Also, well done to the BOM, which is going to be a part of that. Next. Here we go. Nationally consistent terms. Years ago, all of the fire agencies agreed to introduce the advice, watch and act and emergency labels. Those labels are used by all of the fire agencies. It makes it very easy for national media in particular to get a sense and to communicate to the community when there's that nationally consistent approach. There have been some issues for national media when it comes to reporting on Queensland bushfires. The Queensland authorities, they promote their call to action for the community. There are solid reasons why they use that call to action. They tend to, for example, talk about a prepare to leave warning rather than a watch and act warning. Where there's a nationally consistent approach, it does make it far easier, particularly for the national media, to communicate to the public. Next. When we think about the media, we think about a changing situation, it's often very difficult to get across all of the information. Well done to the BOM in particular. Their communication when it comes to the weather talking points is very clear, it's succinct, and it's easy enough for any journalist to understand the forthcoming forecast. The talking points are in use in all of the BOM locations. Look, there are some agencies which instead of sending out written messages, they instead send out audio. Some of the agencies only send an audio attachment with nothing written about that situation. If you are working in one of those agencies, I would recommend you look at the BOM's talking points to see how you can better reach your media audience. Next. Speaking of emails, my inbox is incredibly full. I currently have, I think, 37,000 unread emails. Yes, 37,000. Most of my unread emails are emergency warnings of some description. They could be marine wind warnings. They could be advice level warnings. So not the highest level of warnings, but still my inbox is filled with them. I actually love having an inbox with warnings in them. As a member of the media, it's far easier to instantly know when a warning has been issued if the agency emails media contacts a warning about it. For the fire agencies, most of the fire agencies do send their media contacts an email when a warning is issued. That is incredibly helpful. It is so helpful, not just to managers like myself, but also to journalists. If you're a member of the one fire agency that does not currently send out warnings via email, can I please encourage you to do that in future? It really does make it so much easier. Next. When I said to the emergency team, what do you think are the greatest success stories of emergency communication? This was the issue. They all said, yes, we have to tell the public, we have to tell EMPA about the wonderful thing that DFES is doing. Think of an incredibly difficult fire situation or some other type of natural disaster. The information is changing rapidly. It is very difficult to keep on top of what is new and what is old information. The way that DFES does it is via red font at the top of their warning. That clearly tells the media, including a radio journalist reading it live on air, what the new information is and what changes have happened. If there was one tip I would suggest all agencies follow, this would be the tip. Please look at how you can help your media in your state or territory better know what the new information is. Next. This is a strange slide, and I've said that cyclones which don't travel interstate, well, that works well. The reason I say that, this is Cyclone Esther. It was the third tropical cyclone of the season. It impacted Queensland and the Northern Territory and also Western Australia. The problem currently is that the cyclone management differs for each of those jurisdictions. In future, there will be a greater sense of consistency between those cyclone agencies. And I'd like to congratulate the BOM for the Tropical Cyclone Advisory Group, which is just being set up to try to bring together a more united and consistent approach to cyclones. Next. When we think of communication in an emergency, it is often fraught with the perils of the stress that the local community is feeling. When the stress is high, when the angst is apparent, it's very difficult, as we know, for the average person to absorb that information. Visual images are incredibly powerful tools which help any member of the public, but also the media, to understand just what is happening with that emergency. The two examples I've shown are from this last season. First of all, there's the red dot storm warning. Look, we had to include this slide. When that warning graphic was issued for Adelaide, we, in the emergency team, we did a double take. We had never seen a red dot or a storms indicator that was as large as the red dot in that graphic. That was a clear indication as to the magnitude of the storm front as it approached Adelaide. We actually rang the BOM to double check, is the storm as big? You know, is that graphic correct? But yes, it was. And it was a really good way for the community to understand. For the graphic on the right, That was a fantastic tool that the New South Wales Rural Fire Service introduced, I guess, later in their bushfire emergency period. It was the fire spread prediction app. I know as soon as we shared that on social media, it went absolutely gangbusters. I'm sure the RFS faced or saw that also. It was a very good way that any community could find out in advance where those threatening fires could travel to next. Next. One of the issues which we already know about, and I'm sure all of the agencies know about, is what happens in cross-border areas where there is a threat that could travel across a state or territory border. There were issues with presenting that information to the public. The map on the left is the Victorian map showing the Watch and Act fires which were burning near the border of Victoria and New South Wales late in December. The map on the right shows the equivalent map for New South Wales in the red circled area. That's the area where that Victorian Watch and Act is occurring. Unfortunately, at the moment, the maps are limited. They have been limited, but I am sure that both the emergency agencies at a national level and also at a state level will in future be working on this issue. Certainly the ABC is working on a redeveloped ABC emergency website which will feature a map of Australia and every warning that could be seen in that map. Next. It's always very, very helpful to keep the media in the loop. Here are two ways that the different agencies did that. ESA would send a text message to the media. The one on the left shows the Voxer app used by the RFS in New South Wales just to communicate with the media, not for broadcast, but just to keep the media in the loop. This is what it sounds like.
Ben Shepherd, just with a quick
play the audio.
On the Gospers Mountain, the Hawkesbury. We are currently sending out new warning messages to the area of High McDonald, Upper McDonald and Webbs Creek. Now that is mostly all that western interface up near that St Albans area. It will be to seek shelter as the fire approaches. We continue to see that fire push quite rapidly to the east. So look, again, that will be the areas of High McDonald, Upper McDonald and Webbs Creek to seek shelter as the fire approaches. All those areas are just in the St Albans or just west of St Albans and abut the park in that area. Thank you.
That was such a good tool. If agencies haven't already spoken to Ben Shepherd, I would recommend that you do to find out more about Voxer. Next. We know that apps are incredibly important tools of communication. Alert South Australia was a very well used app. Certainly, the emergency team used it a lot, as we did with the Fires Near Me app for New South Wales. On a state basis, an app works well. What could work even better is a really good national app. Let's hope that is developed in the future. Next. One thing that the ABC has done for many years now in some states and territories is to have the ABC manager, not a journalist, but a manager embedded in state operation centres. Where this has happened, we have a really good sharing of information. The ABC can tell the incident controllers and the other people working in the operations centre what we're hearing from people on the ground via talkback radio. The state operations centre can also share that information back with the ABC. Next. It also works particularly well when local media is dealing directly with local emergency officials. There are some really great examples from the fire season of where that happens. This is one photo. It shows Mark Williams on the RFS down near Wollongong. He liaised very, very closely with ABC Wollongong. They were in regular contact, hourly interviews. They also had a debrief after the fires, and Mark Williams allowed the ABC into the Regional Operations Centre. It is far better for the local officials at a local level to be talking to the local media about that localised event. Far better than speaking to someone in head office. Next. Another really great tool that some of the agencies are using is to actually promote the ABC local radio services and also the frequencies as part of their warnings. This is from the Queensland authorities. They allow the audience, when they're seeing those warnings, to actually find the local radio frequency. Next. Speaking of local radio frequencies, if you think back to December and January, remember the huge queues along the New South Wales South Coast, also in the Gippsland area, as holiday makers were trying to evacuate ahead of those fire fronts. For those people driving, how would they know where to find emergency information? If there were more road signs telling drivers, both the visitors and the locals, how to listen to emergency information via radio, that would be of great benefit, particularly when power blackouts happen, when the internet goes down, as it did in the South Coast. Radio, battery-powered radio, and also car radios were the only tools that the locals had in order to find out updates. Next. They are some of the examples of what we have really seen which works and has worked during this incredible season. But ultimately, what has worked is the work that you have been doing, the work that the agencies have been doing to work in incredibly challenging situations. Periods that, yes, were unprecedented. And how many times did we hear the term unprecedented? It would have been incredibly challenging to every single person, to every single agency grappling with those events. My hat goes off to all of you, and all I can say is thank you for the work that you have done. Thank you for the work that you continue to do, and the ABC looks forward to continuing our work with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Sascha. We're running a little bit short of time, so no questions, but I have a message. It says, not a question, but a huge thank you to all on the ground ABC staff who work tirelessly to present local content. Every ABC staffer I came into contact with during the fires was fantastic to work with and understood the limitations of what we could provide at the peak of the event. I think there's many, many people who feel that way about the ABC, and it's incredible to see the media and emergency communicators working together so well. So thank you, Sascha, and thank you for your time, and we'll continue on.